G'day, mate. What's your name?
Hi, I am Jenny Tian.
Jenny Tian. And what do you do, Jenny?
I am a comedian, I guess, an entertainer.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Crowdworkcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thanks so much for joining me. Great episode today. My guest is Jenny Tian. Now, Jenny is a comedian and, according to Google, internet personality. She's a comedian. That just means she's got a big online following. She's quite big on TikTok and Instagram, particularly TikTok. And this one was a fun chat in that, I think you'll hear that parts of it just seem like an old bloke, i.e. me, asking a young comedian how this whole internet thing works. But yeah, Jenny is absolutely awesome. She's very good to explain the internet to old blokes like me. But it was a fun chat. She's a very, very funny comedian. So if you enjoy this, please do check her out online. You can find her on TikTok. She is at Nom Nom Jenny. You can also find her on Instagram. She's _Jenny Tian, Tian is how you spell Tian, and of course Facebook Jenny Tian. Check out her stuff. Now, if you are interested in seeing Jenny stand up, which I highly, highly recommend, go see her live. There'll be details there. I believe she's doing the whole run of festivals again this year. But you can also find her first comedy special, which has just dropped on YouTube. It's called Picture This. It's on her YouTube channel. So if you Google Jenny Tian Picture This, you will find that for sure. Check it out, give it a like, and subscribe to Jenny wherever you can. In terms of plugs for me, nothing much at the moment other than please do like and subscribe if you're enjoying the podcast. And if you would be so kind as to give me a bit of a follow on socials, Instagram, Andrew Barnett Comedy, TikTok, Andrew Barnett Comedy, and Andrew Barnett Comedian on Facebook. And like as always, if you're enjoying stuff and you want to reach out, send me a message or get in contact. Tell me if you're enjoying the podcast, and if there's someone you'd want me to have a chat to, feel free to let me know who it is and what you'd want me to ask them. Other than that, that's probably enough faffing around for now. Please enjoy this. This is my episode with Jenny Tian. An entertainer.
Yes.
That's that's the hardest questions comedians. There's very few comedians that just straight up are happy just to go, yeah, I'm a comedian.
Yeah, no, that's true. Because it's like, I don't know, I feel like you have to you kind of earn the title, at least in my mind. Like you can't just, do a few gigs and go, I'm a comedian now. It's like a respected title. So I think there's always a little bit of hesitancy.
I think you're being generous calling it respected, but yeah, I get what you mean. Like it is. I'm the same in terms of, like, you didn't want to start calling yourself a comedian before.
Yeah.
Other people might think you're a comedian, and not necessarily punters, because I don't think they always know or have any idea. Like, if they come to see you on what they consider a professional night, they wouldn't have any clue who's full-time, who's not full-time.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And oftentimes the full-timers are doing new gear.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, well, I just saw this person and they weren't that great, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, obviously, especially depending where you are. Like, if you're at anywhere other than the Comedy Store midweek or whatever, even the Comedy Store midweek, you see,
that's true,
professionals doing New Year. So.
Yeah, 100%.
So how long have you been going now?
I think 7 years now, almost 7.
7 years.
Yeah, which sounds like so long, but I mean, you probably feel the same way, but it never feels like that long. Like you still feel like every year you're like, oh man, there's all these things that I've learned and I can't believe I haven't been doing this for all the other years, and now I feel like I know way more about it. But then you just go through that every single year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that's how you grow.
But I think that's part of the fun too, is you never really conquer it. Like it's
so true, you can't.
It's a job that's never quite done.
Yeah, 100%. But I just started at like an open mic in, I think, immediately after I graduated uni, I thought of it as like a bucket list type item.
Yep.
And then I went to Molotov or BD back in Glebe. And then I watched a show, and there were some people that were really, really good for an open mic.
Yep.
And there were a lot of people that were not so great. And I was like, I feel like I could at least be at that you know what I mean?
There is something when you start out, the more inspirational person to watch is the person who's not great.
Exactly, because it's like, if they're on stage, then I can absolutely do at least that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the person that's really good where you go, no.
Exactly.
I could never do that.
Yeah, that was what, it was some of, I saw Jennifer Coolidge and Mike White at Vivid Sydney.
Yeah.
And there was an audience person that asked her, like, what do you do for inspiration? And she was like, I'm going to go to hell for saying this, and this is so awful. But whenever you're in a little bit of a rut, just go see something really bad, and that'll immediately make you feel so much better about wherever you're at.
Oh, that's such a, it sounds cynical, but I get exactly where she's coming from there. That's you don't, sometimes even now, like I'm not, you don't feel great, and then you'll go do a gig that you're working with newer people, and you see them making the mistakes you made 10 years ago, and you go, okay, I have progressed.
Yes, I had that experience recently at like an open mic where, because you go through ruts in comedy, right? Where it might be like a few months and you still don't have a new bit or whatever, and you're just like, oh, I'm just not funny. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. And I went to an open mic and I was like, oh no, I'm okay. And then like you said, you just see them doing the little rookie errors, and you're like, I did those back in those days, and I'm at least not doing that anymore. So I'm not rubbish and I'm not hopeless at this.
Yeah, I used to love going often when I was working at Fox. If I had a full day of writing or whatever, where sort of the life cycle of our show was, there was a couple of days where it was full-on days where you'd just be writing, but you're not getting any feedback other than the people you're writing with and bouncing ideas off.
Yeah,
and so you lose, we had this thing on the wall that said the creative process is basically, oh, this could be something, this is great, this is exciting, I don't know what this is. Could this be anything? This sucks. and then back to, oh, that turned out all right.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you've got to go through that thing where you get too close to it, so you hate it. So I used to love, if I could, there was a couple of rooms that had let me drop in late notice just to, just open mic rooms. They'd squeeze me on late notice. And I used to love driving home from those sort of days to just run a bit of material just to remind myself that I was funny. Like, because there's nothing like a full day of writing like that. No, like you lose all perspective of, is this even funny? Is it, you've overthought, because joke, like, I don't know, the idea of so much of comedy is that spontaneous, like it's supposed to feel spontaneous and in the moment.
Yeah.
And repetition, like anything, like with an audience, if they hear the same joke over and over again, they stop laughing.
100%.
It's the more you say the same joke over and over again, or the more you try and break down and analyze, and that's when you lose the why was this funny again?
Exactly. So, that immediate feedback is, I think, what makes us love like stand-up so much. I have the same thing where sometimes I'll write with like Patrick Galamco and we'll work on like a series or whatever, and then one of us might come up with a joke and the other one would go, why is that funny? And then you just question everything, and then you try to gaslight yourself into thinking it might be funny or not funny, and you really truly have no idea until you kind of put it in front of an audience. Although when you do it for many, many years, there are some people like Tom Ballard, for example, that just know immediately whether something's going to work or not.
But there's also there's two sides of it. There's the concept of it, and then there's the being able to perform it and sell it and get your idea across. And that's where Tom, I worked with Tom, we were in Cairns just after the Voice, and he came down and he had like 15 minutes on just the Voice of thoughts and stuff, and but comes out, like you said, comes out fully formed. One, because he actually takes the time to sit and write it properly. But two, he knows his voice so well at this stage, and he knows how to sell his jokes to the point where it's not like, is there anything here? There's something here.
Yes, 100%. It's really interesting, I find, when comedians will sometimes give you like a tag, and like I think you did actually for a bit that I had, and then they're like, yeah, this will be funny, and then in my head sometimes I'm like, I don't think that'll be funny, and then I try it on stage and it works, and I'm like, God damn it, they were right.
Well, hopefully, when you're saying I suggested one to you, that's one of the ones that was funny.
Yeah.
But it is, that is to sometimes, I don't know, I find it very not very easy, but easier to sit with someone else's, watch someone else and get 100%. Ideas, because especially if it's if it's a premise that tickles your fancy, like, oh my God, there's so much here, they got to keep digging, they got to go down this area. And I've had the same thing where people come up, if you thought going down this direction, and sometimes it's helpful, and sometimes it's like, oh, that's just not how that's a direction I would probably never go, because it just wouldn't suit my voice or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think also like with like on stage persona as well, like when someone's watching you, they have a better idea sometimes of how you may be perceived on stage than yourself. So like Patrick, again, I'll just use him as an example. He gets so many people pitching to him, oh, you could do it like this and you can do it like this, because the persona of like the nerdy IT guy is so strong with him that he's just like, oh yeah, I could do that. So, you know, sometimes it's kind of just that thing as well. You just need that person outside to kind of look and see what else is there.
I feel really bad. I suggested to him one time, he was doing
You're like, I was one of those people.
No, it wasn't a suggestion about what he should do.
Yeah.
It was a joke he should close on.
Oh yeah.
He's got a joke where it's very fun. It's out of left field, and it's kind of a bit darker and a bit creepier but it was his big laugh.
It's the uncle one, right?
Yeah. So that I watched him do it a couple of times, and then that would get such a pop that after that it wouldn't. He like that's what I said to him. I said, that's your closer, man. That's what you're building towards. That's you're selling this, and then that's your closer. And then the next time we worked together, he closed with it, and it got that was what he had to leave the stage with. I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry.
To be like, this Andrew Barnett guy knows nothing about comedy.
That's so
funny. I mean, it's a risky his choice at the end of the day, but yeah, it's a risky one, because it either goes, it pops off, and people are like, yes, that is so great, a molestation joke, or no, you crossed the line.
That's where I think I'd seen him, the rooms we'd done, and that's something you get better at over time too, is knowing whether that audience will go for that sort of thing. Like you get a feeling, because it is a back and forth thing,
100%.
It's live, and so you get a feeling for where their line is.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel like I sold him sold him down the river with that one. So you I didn't realize you started 7 years ago, because I feel like the first time I met you would have been probably post-COVID. It's only 3 or 4 years ago. I just remember the first time I worked with you, I didn't know, I hadn't seen you before, but someone just telling me, oh man, she's massive on TikTok.
Oh, okay, so it's post-COVID, yeah.
Yeah, you were the first bona fide TikTok star I worked with.
Oh, wow.
And it was all I knew, because I just saw the names on the thing, and I think I may have even said to Tom Orr, because I always ask Tom, he tends to know newer people better than I do.
He does. Yeah.
And so I'd say, oh, who are these people? You go, and then he goes, oh, Jenny, she's really good. She's massive on TikTok.
Yeah.
So how did the TikTok thing come about? Talk to me about this, because this is fascinating, because obviously TikTok is the it's what everyone goes, oh, you should get big on TikTok. But everyone, I think it seems to people a simpler process than it probably is.
I think it is a simpler process than people think it is. I think people build up an idea in their heads of what they think an algorithm wants, and then they kind of will, make arguments and stories in their heads for why certain things aren't working when it's actually so much more simple than it is, which is at the end of the day, TikTok is not a social media platform, it's an entertainment platform. So you just got to be entertaining on it. And every single second of that video has to be entertaining. And if you follow that principle, that's it. And a lot of people I see a lot of comedians posting.
By the way, I'm just editing this. This is strictly advice from me. No one else is getting this.
Yeah, a lot of comedians, and they're still kind of using it as if it's Instagram, and they're like, hi, I'm doing this and this and this. And it's like, no, you just got to get straight into, if it's a joke, if it's stand-up, just get into the joke. Don't worry about all the other little bits in between it. But I started on TikTok. Oh man, it was during the second lockdown that we had in Sydney where I really started going hard on it. Like I'd posted like little bits and pieces on it before, but like nothing ever popped off too much until I think I was so new into stand-up at that stage that I didn't even have like a proper nice filmed set of myself. So I just told a joke into the camera, and that got like 500,000 views in like a week. And I was like, whoa, this is nuts. Like, okay, there's something in this. And then I posted like another joke and it didn't do so well. And then I posted another one that got like, I don't know, like 90,000 views or whatever. And I was like, oh, whoa, okay, so there's something in this. And then, in that second lockdown, which I think the first lockdown was like an optimistic, like, COVID, well, what is this virus? It's going to go away so quickly. And the second one was a lot more pessimistic.
Well, there was a novelty to the first one in that it felt like, oh, this is weird. It can't go on for too long.
Yeah.
Let's all pretend we're on a holiday having these, we're stuck at home. Let's all drink.
Yeah, it's like the dolphins in Venice and wow, nature's regrowing. And the second one was a lot more like, oh my gosh, not again. And I was like, well, that's a really, I don't know. It was a depressing time for a lot of comedians because we couldn't go out and gig live. And I was like, well, I might as well make something of this time. And during the first lockdown, I was making sketches and posting them to Facebook, which was rookie error. I was like, well, who's watching stuff on Facebook? I've only got like a few hundred followers maybe. So I should have been posting from TikTok on the get-go. But anyway, I was really resistant to TikTok because the conversations at the time were, there was still that sort of thing where it's like, oh, it's for like young dancing teenagers and it's a dancing app and you got to be hot and all of that sort of stuff. And a lot of comedians were like, these teenagers that are on it. So I felt a lot of resistance toward it. But like I was also at that time like, I got nothing left. There's no comedy. I got nothing to do. I need some sort of creative outlet to keep myself sane. So then I just started posting like sketches about COVID. And there was so much material out of it. It was like every day there was like a new rule. There were like LGAs, there were curfews, there were the picnics at one stage. Like there was so much material that was coming out from it that I could keep up a velocity where I was making videos daily. And then by the end of lockdown, I had an audience, which was kind of like, I didn't think that it would go as well as it did by any means. And then when it came to things like Sydney Comedy Fest or whatever, then I actually had people that would come to my shows that hadn't seen that much of my stand-up before, but at least liked me in some sense.
Knew your sensibility.
Yeah. So then that's kind of how I got into it. And now I still kind of have that online audience that follows me as I tour. So yeah, that's the TikTok thing.
Wow. So how often do you post now? Like,
I post way less frequently. Like, when I was really looking to grow, it was like at least once a day I would post, if not sometimes more. Now I'm way lazier because I'm like, I've hit all the metrics that I want to with these platforms, which is like, I think when you're at 100,000 followers, I'm like, I'm satisfied, I'm happy. Like that's an incomprehensible amount of people to me. I can't imagine wanting to build more than that. So now I kind of post like 3 times a week-ish, 4 times a week, like once every 2 days. But if I wanted to grow again and keep those numbers up, then I'd post more.
This is because I'm just feeling my age right now. Because that, like, you're not wrong in that it's just that one building is consistency. That's what everyone says. It's consistency early. But then there's plenty of people doing it consistently and then not getting the results you got. So obviously what you were doing resonated.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what resonated was that it was lockdown and everyone was in the same situation and it was topical. And when you do things that are topical, like they tend to kind of go into the news cycle and people are looking out for it a bit more than other styles of content. So I think that was one key to it. And then also, like, I studied like film studies back in uni. I went to UNSW and majored in film, like theoretical film, but I still would like make short films and like edit, and like I think I worked at their student like film department at one stage. So I kind
Sorry,
of
you just said you think you worked at I don't know. Look, I was drinking a lot at uni.
I have no recollection. No, I did. And so I kind of have like basic editing skills and knowledge so that to a basic extent I can kind of like feed in a rhythm of a video and understand kind of like comedically like the beats and everything and the rhythm of it that maybe some people that aren't trained in that type of stuff might not notice. But at the end of the day, like I've seen people do all different types of, you know, content, and honestly, at the end of the day, it's just entertaining. That's it.
Yeah.
If it does well, it's entertaining. And if it doesn't do well, I think you've also got to have that self-awareness, just like with stand-up, to go back and go, okay, why hasn't it done well? And a lot of people kind of tend to go, I've been shadow banned, that's it. When shadow banning doesn't actually exist.
Well, I'm pretty sure I've been shadow banned on every, because you know my confrontational sort of out there views.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty much offensive, so I get shadow banned on everything. No, it's one of those ones that's it's sort of, I think we're in an interesting time in the whole. I think the whole stand-up model in terms of how you build an audience is really changing.
Yeah, like Matt Rife, you know, and all of his stuff. I don't watch any of his stand-up really, but I've been obsessed recently with watching him do interviews and talk about what it's been like to, because he's been doing it for 12 years and got no success. In fact, so there was a time where he was on, like him and his friend were like doing a comedy duo type thing. And then Just for Laughs were interested, but they only wanted his friend. And they specifically said, we don't want Matt. We don't want this guy. This was before he was hot, obviously. Yeah. This is when he was,
hot can get you a long way.
Hot gets you places. And so, yeah, he was excluded initially from Just for Laughs, and then his friend ended up going, I'm not doing it without Matt. And then he had eventually...
What a friend.
Yeah, what a champion, right? So he's been through an enormous amount of rejection, like no late night spots, which at that level, when you've been doing it for 12 years, that's got to, you know, kind of hurt when you don't get that. No JFL, none of the other things. And so everything has just been through like this TikTok and the rise through that. And he does have the self-awareness where he knows his youth and his looks are part of it. And he knows that he needs to have that craft as well to back it up. And he hopes that, you know, because he's got a Netflix special coming out, that craft is at a level where it'll sustain a career for him.
That's interesting too, in that I think like you starting, like having already done years of stand up before you got your TikTok thing means that you have applied craft, and then when it comes to actually doing the show, like Matt Rife getting his special and having live shows for people to come and see him. Sorry, I put my hand on my drink because that is the noisiest part of the morning. But being able to, there's something I've always thought in comedy is if you get an opportunity too early, like it's one thing to get the opportunity, but if you're not ready for it, it's very hard to capitalize on it.
Yes, I agree with that as well. And I think when I look, I mean, another reason why I started doing the TikTok stuff was because, like, I never got through a raw heat. I never got a lot of those kind of, I guess, the early markers of success when you're starting out in comedy. So I was like, I need something because I want to do this and I want to have a solo show where people turn up and I don't want to have to cancel any shows. So I was also kind of posting for that reason. But now when I look back at a lot of how I was when I first started, like I wasn't great, like I'm glad that I don't have like a televised raw set. Like
that's what amazes me is that like people who start and in their first couple of years are posting clips. It's like, oh man, I am so happy there's nothing of me in those early days.
Oh my God, you know what?
It takes time.
I was, okay, so this was, because I knew of your existence way before you knew of mine, but I had a comedian, I've never told this to you, but I was on a drive back one day from like an open mic with another comic. And, we were just talking about how good you were at comedy. And then he was like,
Go on.
But he was like, but you know what? There's a clip of him early at the Comedy Store, and it might have been one of his earliest sets from years back. And it might have been like one of your first sets at the store or maybe a raw heat or something. But we were like, he was okay in it, but he's not like where he is now. Like, how cool is it that he like got like that much better in, that period. And we found it really hopeful.
Yeah, I'm an inspiration. The ugly duckling. But that's it. Like I think there's a few weird little clips that are, but you're just not very, like, I wasn't, at least in the first few years, just not very good. Like you know there's something there, and you'll get a laugh, and but enough for me to keep me going. But I certainly wasn't. Yeah, like, but I still feel like the show I've got. So my last 2 hours that I did for festivals, I've now got. I got the shows shot, so I'm now
that's awesome.
Getting to the point where I'm clipping them up to issues for clips.
That's great.
But I'm much more. I feel like this year's show that I've just finished doing was way better than the year before. Like the year before, I was like, oh, that's a bit.
Yeah.
That's a bit. And like so, and I'm hopeful, but then in my brain still, I'm like, well, next year's show is not going to be as good as this one that was just round. But that's exactly how I felt after the year before. So
yeah. I mean, like, I'm about to release my special as well, and I look at a lot of those jokes now, and I'm like, I mean, they were from my first like 4 or 5 years of comedy, so I'm like, some of these are not that great. But I was having chats with people about it, and they're like, well, the mentality is that this is kind of like the first time a real audience is going to see you do stand-up, and they're going to grow with you. So it's kind of fine where, okay, you might not be the happiest with some of this stuff, but they know that there's going to be like a special next year, and they'll grow with you and evolve with you in your process.
Yeah, I'm much more... my outlook on it is like, I've got those two. I'm just going to use as clips. I may put the whole hours up at some stage on YouTube, but my YouTube channel is not really big, and like I don't have enough followers to really warrant it or worry about it at this stage.
Oh yeah, but you also could, like, if you just type in like Australian comedy special and you skim through what's there, a lot of them don't have that many subscribers, but the YouTube algorithm at the moment is based on total watch time. So the longer a video is, the better it'll tend to go on YouTube.
This is the sort of stuff I don't know. That's amazing. I didn't realize that, because I'm sort of at this point where, like, I'm a little bit old, just that little bit older than you, where it's the 10 years difference, where like when I was in my teen years, social media just wasn't, like, I remember being in the States in 2005, I would have been 24, and I was over there on like a working holiday, and I remember talking to some guys who were my age, saying that, there's this new thing called the Facebook, that early iteration when it was only open to college, to keep up with college thing.
Yeah.
So they were talking about that then, and they were like, this is really interesting, this Facebook. So like I was sort of just past that. Like, it wasn't native to me, the whole social media thing, which for my mental health is a blessing.
Yeah.
But then, so now it's hard to, like, I am sometimes a bit late to...
You know what though? I felt the same way when I was starting on TikTok. Like, literally, I didn't even have Instagram, which for a millennial is like, whoa, you don't have it. It was like noted by the comedians that I didn't have Instagram. That was like a wild to be a comedian who wanted to do an hour at some point and not have Instagram. That's like, what are you doing? I had only just started like a Facebook page in like 2019 or something. Like, I hated social media. I hated posting.
Man, I'm the same.
Did you get so self-conscious about it, right?
Exactly.
But the thing about like TikTok and then how I ended up becoming analytical with it was the great thing about it that I like is that you'll post and none of your friends will see it. And it's just pure, it goes into the abyss and you just don't have to worry about it anymore.
There's some freedom with that, especially within comedy too, in that like you've got the comedians who are your mates and that you respect. And I don't know, like I get this real thing of like, that feeling of, is this embarrassing for them?
Oh yeah, that's the word. If all your peers are watching and then you post some, clip or whatever, and I feel like the healthier mentality is to go, who cares? You should post it anyway. However, I still cared. And so I went, no, I'm just going to go on TikTok where I know no one's on this at all at this point. And then you can just post into the abyss. And the format is still like that because it doesn't serve it up to your followers, your videos. It serves it up into whoever is going to like the video as determined by the algorithm. So really, you got nothing to lose.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is I've started to post more on all of them lately and just actually make an effort.
That's awesome.
But it's one of those things where it's like, did I post that there? Like, I'm just disorganized too, which is like, I didn't realize how organized you'd have to be with shooting, editing.
Yeah, it is, especially if you're doing it all yourself. I have like a calendar that I set out so that I know which clips I'm going to post on what day. Otherwise, you're right. It's just a big library of mess.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. So with your audience that you've built, and that they come along to see your stand-up?
They do. They come along to see my stand-up. And I think what's interesting about the situation that I'm in, and, partly why I'm so curious about Matt Rife's career, because I in some way relate to it, is that for a lot of them, it'll be their first stand-up show that they've ever seen. So they don't know how to behave in an audience. Like, when you're watching something on your screen, you don't laugh out loud. You keep it to yourself. And they don't understand that when they go to a show. So, like, if anyone has ever seen my solo hour, I spend the first, 3 minutes emceeing the crowd, which you're not supposed to. You shouldn't have to for a solo show. But
that you're not supposed to do. Is I hate when, and you see this online often, people posting things about these are the do's and don'ts. It's hard enough to do comedy without putting arbitrary rules on it for ourselves. So if that's what you got to do to get your audience to create a vibe in the room, because the ultimate thing is you want to create a fun experience for all those people and for you. You want it to be it is a fun shared experience where you guys are all laughing together at these thoughts you've thought of. You're sharing hopefully funny stuff with them.
Yeah.
So if it takes you setting a bit of context, then
true.
That's, do you know what I mean? Like it all facilitates the night. Like,
yeah, that's true.
This idea that, that self-consciousness of, you shouldn't have, you shouldn't have to do that, or you shouldn't, that's not what you should do at the start of an hour, is just garbage, because you watch the best comedians in the world know how to go out there and engage with the audience it's got. Like when you see a special that's, some big international Netflix comedian, they've recorded it 3 and 4 times.
True, and they've gotten an opener, so the crowd's warm.
And the opener's been through and told them the warm-up. I've done it for
true, you have,
comedians. So, like, yeah, they've had someone do that for them. If you haven't got someone to do that for create that environment however you need to create it, I think.
That's very encouraging. Yeah. So anyway, it's a lot of online audiences that like come to my show, and it'll be their first time seeing the comedy show, which also is like it's pretty cool. But I think
that is really cool in that you're getting people into comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Although, yeah, I think I do struggle a little bit with like still the making it feel safe for them to laugh out loud. Like a lot of them are like, they'll come by themselves, you know, like they're that type of audience, and this is kind of like the one time of the year that they're gonna go out and whatever, and like, you know, it's such a privilege, but it's also like, you know, how do you deal with that when usually I'm performing at a club where people are drunk and it's like groups of people and that sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different context that you don't, because everything else that you're doing, you get to practice.
Yes.
That's the bit you don't get to practice.
It's so true. And your practice is like at your festival shows, and then, you know, there are nights where there's going to be judges in and there's reviewers in and that sort of stuff as well. And I don't know, I've only done the festival circuit once so far, but it can really be like a heady experience. And then you got other people that are posting on social media or whatever, and you just got to remind yourself not to compare, and you know.
That's 100%. Like you got to. I think the hardest thing to keep your like. When I started, I couldn't believe that there'd be people that'd get bitter doing this.
Oh, same. But you see it. You see
it because you lose, not lose perspective, but if you can keep that idea of why you got into this, what appealed to you as this might be a fun job, and you focus on those elements, then it's easier not to be bitter. Like if I said to you the day you started, Jenny, at one, like in 7 years' time, this is what you will have achieved.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, you do you know what I mean? But because you're looking ahead at the next thing, which is also entirely necessary, because otherwise you don't want to stagnate, you don't want to stop that creative urge.
Yeah.
But because you're looking ahead, sometimes it's like, like it's very easy to look sideways and looking around and go, why aren't I doing that? Maybe I should be doing that. Maybe I should. Oh, this person's doing that, but I reckon I could do that better. And like this, and I don't know, like part of what I'm trying to maintain now is focus on why I'm being creative, or what the creative urge is, why I'm like, instead of trying to go, okay, I need to get big on TikTok or get big on this for just as a, you know, because that's a mean to it, that's an end in itself. Go, okay, well, why do I want to use those tools? And for me, it's to feed. I want to be able to do what you're doing, is feed that stand-up comedy audience.
Yeah.
But I also know that with the way I am, that I need to find a way to do it that suits what I'm doing, so that when they come, so if I start trying to do videos that aren't something that I do, then they come and then they get to my stand-up and it's something completely different. Well, then no one's happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's that as well. Man, there's a lot of thoughts in there. But like, yeah, I'd say firstly, the whole comparison thing, it's never been healthy.
No, it's natural, but it's not healthy.
But you can't. You just got to focus on like I think, you know, because 7 years still for me, it's like, that's not that long in a stand-up career.
To have achieved what you've achieved in the amount of time you have is exceptional.
Oh, thanks.
It's amazing. You've got an audience. That's the dream.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, thanks. But it's like, I can see, you know, people that have been doing it for a lot longer, like 15, 20 years, that really do get bitter. And I do kind of become curious as well as to like, how can you ever get yourself out of that kind of like mentality and mindset once you kind of like drop into it? And what are the things along the way that you have to remind yourself of so that you don't become like that and then you don't end up hating it? Because another great fear of mine is that, you know, because I've been doing this this has been longer than I've had like any real job for. Like, yeah, I've got a degree, but I don't think I could ever go back into...
What is the degree in?
Oh, yeah. I never explained this. So I went to UNSW for Commerce and Arts, and I majored in marketing and film studies, and out of uni, I worked in a Big Four firm doing digital consulting. And I did that for, I think, 2.5 years. And then it was overwhelming. It was that plus, at the time, open mic comedy.
Yep.
I could not juggle the two. I think if I had a less intense day job, I probably would have done that for a bit longer, but I couldn't sustain those two lifestyles. And then slowly along the way, I just found a job that'll let me work 4 days and then 3 days and then so on. But I don't think I could ever return to that. And then I get scared, like, what if I do become bitter like one of these people and then I hate it? And then I got no other job that I can do. And then I'll just be stuck in stand-up comedy hell.
But yeah, this is how I look at it. And just from my thing is if you stay focused on the fact that you wanted to, like, it's what you, the creativity is, you want to be able to put something out into the world. And rather, like, if you look and go, I would like to do stand-up comedy whether I got paid or not, which is exactly when you started. You weren't getting paid.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a nightmare with a high intensity job, but you still put yourself through it. Like, then that if the stand-up is the thing that makes you happier, then what's the choice?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
Like, you can, like, we could all go and get a more secure job, but, you know, is it going to be the thing that is it going to be as fulfilling? And then like, if instead of, I get great advice before I went down to do Melbourne a few years ago. A good mate of mine, Nick Ratto, is a Kiwi comedian, and he was talking to me about when the first time he went and did Edinburgh, and he came away really depressed.
Oh, yeah, that can get brutal.
But then he said the advice he got before the second time is, okay, what goals? What do you want to get out of this? And he said, if you set your goals on the things you can control, rather than the outcome, you go, I want to come back better at this.
Yeah.
I want to come back having done this, and this. And it's all the outcomes you can control, as opposed to, you know, I want to be nominated for Best Newcomer. I want to be, you know, win the Perrier or whatever. All those things that are outside your control. Good to aim for, but realistically, you need to, if you just focus on the bits you can control, whether you get the Perrier or not, you can walk out and go, that was successful because I wanted to achieve these things, and I achieved all those things.
Yeah.
So
that's a great way to think about it, yeah.
and it's hard. But then, for me, that thing of staying not bitter, because you do, the other thing is you see people, I remember early on someone telling me, he goes, he goes, don't worry, you see so many people go past you in this job, like, you know, you there's not like that tract where you go, oh, well, 10 years you get these opportunities, 15 years you get those opportunities. People get them at different times.
That's so true, yeah.
So the key is not to worry too much and just keep doing what you're doing. Because I remember someone said to me, like, you know, we were looking at this, someone who'd done quite well and they built an audience. And we were talking about it, and then they just said, yeah, but do you want that audience?
Yeah, true.
Like, do you know what I mean? You want your audience that are into your thing.
Yeah.
So you can look around and see the opportunities other people have got, but then at a certain point you go, well, I'm over here building my thing, so that doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
Whether someone else is doing well or not.
Yeah, it's a very healthy mentality. And you're right, there's no point comparing, and because there's always going to be the new, young, shiny new thing that comes up that's going to be the attention-grabbing thing, always. And then for that person, after that, there'll be another, you know, new person that comes through. So you can never control the scene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and the thing is, like, the way I look at it is, like, I'm lucky enough now that this is what I do. But like, if you'd said to me day one day you'll be able to pay your bills just doing this, that's more than
that's so cool
for me.
I mean, that was always, like, you know, the original goal that I had, and still the goal that I have is just, could you in any way be a performer or entertainer or a comedian and just do that and not have to worry about having a day job or whatever else? Because I know a lot of comedians are like, oh man, if you can do anything else, you should try do that instead, because comedy is so hard. But it's like, have you had a day job? Like, it's like, it's so stressful, and you get annoying co-workers, and you've got to wake up early. Like, it's not a pleasant thing to do.
But none of it's, like, that's the thing. Like, it's very easy to fantasize about the other life because you never put all the trouble. Like, no job's easy. Like to do it for that. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone's life's like, they all look around and go, man, it'd be easier if this and be easier. Like, yeah, the grass is always greener. So you may as well be doing something you know. You don't really have a choice about whether you do it or not, which is, you know, part of the thing.
Yeah, 100%.
What would you do if I said to you, you can never do comedy again? What would you do though, you reckon?
I've had to think about this. I think I'd either do like a music production.
Yeah.
Or, I'm going to count writing in comedy just for the sake of it. Yeah, I think music production.
Music production.
Yeah, I'm really nerdy about music production for some reason. Like, I'm really into, I thought everyone was into this, and then I spoke to other people about it and they're like, no, that's a you thing. I like watching like analysis videos of producers and then how they like layer like tracks in music and stuff. And then who is it? Like Billie Eilish's brother Phineas, like he uploaded the file for Ocean Eyes, so you can see everything that they did in it. And then I opened it up and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And there's like literally, it'll be like 20 layers of her voice just singing the same thing, but you see how they achieve effects like that. And I'm like, that's really cool.
My 15-year-old son is exactly that brain.
No way.
He loves that sort of stuff. He's obsessed with music and that at the moment. He always talks about, Dad, but you did this. And what's cool is that the chord progression doesn't resolve. It goes to this.
Yeah.
I know nothing about music. And I'm just sitting there just like, because I find it interesting, but it's all going so way over my head. But I'm like, he's 15. If he wants to talk to me about something, I'll let him talk to me about it. You know? It's so I get that, and having seen when even just over like on a very basic level when we're at Fox and you go into the audio engineer's booth and stuff and just see the way they work and the way and you're just like, oh yeah, like I don't know, like watching them put all the different channels like you said together and then okay, I'm going to do this with your voice and that with this voice and you like it's something that you. When it's done well, you don't even notice it. You're just taking it all in.
100%.
But then when it's not, like there's two things I find in TV and film that will throw you if they're not done. It's lighting and sound.
Yes, and you don't notice it. You're right until it's done wrong. Yeah.
And you're like, this looks cheap. Even if you don't know why you're noticing it, you just say, this looks a bit dodgy, this production.
Yeah. I mean, I was in acting class yesterday and we were talking about The Great Gatsby and, you know, you're like, oh my God, it's The Great Gatsby. It's going to be this big, beautiful production and stuff. And it's like a little bit of, you know, building that they've done and then just all like blue screen behind it. Yeah.
My cousin, who's one of my good mates, is one of the people that built that in 3D world. He's an animator.
That's so cool.
And he is actually in the so he at that stage would do this thing where if it was a live action film they were doing, he would put himself in the background somewhere of all the films.
Funny.
So he worked on the Mad Max Fury Road.
That's so cool.
And you know when there's that Rictus, a big giant like strongman character pulls the engine block out and lifts it above his head. For like 2 frames, it's Steve's face on him.
No way!
Which I probably shouldn't be saying on the internet because he's working on another Mad Max now. Yeah. But yeah, there's a shot in the background. Like if you look, you know, I think it's in the barbershop scene. So if you look basically through the window outside on the wall opposite, on the street opposite, there's a poster for a magician and it's Steve's face.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
So you've got to, like, you'd have to pause it and zoom right up and be on the exact right frame to even be able to half see it. But yes, he's, but yeah, so he worked on all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you're right, like it is all just, because I remember seeing that there's a great YouTube video of that which shows the scene and then what they actually filmed.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because they film like, you know, basically a tiny section of the frame and the rest was just built digitally, which is insane.
Yeah, and then, you know, what we were saying earlier about like the lighting and the sound and everything, like without it, it just seemed like a kind of like a bland scene. And then you get all the visual effects people to come in and fill in all of that. And then they add the layers of the lighting and then the color grading. And then you add the music on top of it. And suddenly you're like, oh, this is so emotional and beautiful and all of that sort of stuff. But
yeah, well, that's the thing. Music too. Like on a thing, like when you see like stuff that's filmed that's without the music, even just slightest bit of background music, it has this flat feel.
And you just don't notice, and your audiences will realize something's off, but they won't be able to pinpoint what exactly it is. But yeah, I mean, film production and like sound engineering, like even in like a comedy special, like, I mean, having just filmed mine, I didn't realize how important sound was. I really should have had like an audio person scope out the space before I did it. But you know, there's different like effects and that type of stuff that you can apply on the sound. And if they can make it sound really flat, and if it's really flat, you could have the exact same jokes, and as a person viewing it, you'll go, oh yeah, that wasn't that funny. As opposed to if you take, I don't know, some like echo up, or I don't know what effects they're applying on it to make it sound as good as it does, but you're like, oh man, that was great.
So where did you shoot your special?
I shot it at the Grand Electric, which is like the old giant dwarf.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
They
good
shot
space.
Good space. They shot a bunch of like the Paramount Plus specials there as well. And yeah, it's an awesome space, but what I didn't realize was how big. I mean, it sounds a bit silly saying it now because it's like 300 seats, but I didn't realize how big it was and the level of sound and the mics that you needed for something like that, and that I should have asked someone before I filmed it. I just got these random, well, not random, I asked Soundwave for a recommendation, but I got people to come into that space, and we really should have maybe scoped it out beforehand and done a bit more prep work.
But these are all lessons.
They're all lessons. They're all lessons. Yeah.
Going through, and that's that. I mean, that's part of the fun of it. So, did you self-fund, shoot it all yourself?
Yeah. So I self-funded it. I mean, I basically broke even on it, like lost a little bit on it. But you know, I'm selling bucket hats now, so I'm like,
bucket hats.
Yeah.
Nice. Where can people give them a plug? Where can people buy them?
Link in my bio, basically. But It's kind of like, this special is free, but if you'd like to support me in any way, I'm selling
buy a bucket hat.
Yeah, which is kind of like my way of going, hey, if you want to support extra, like, because I don't have Patreon or anything, then yeah, this is something you can get.
That's I've always envied people who had good merch. Like had merch idea. I've never had a merch idea that I thought I could actually.
Really? Like not even like a t-shirt or?
No, t-shirt? I don't know what I'd put on a t-shirt. Like it's.
You got heaps of jokes.
Yeah, I know. I don't have what's called a marketing brain, Jenny.
Oh yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I'm not good at that side of the business. Yeah. So I did. I remember I did a gig with Peter Berner. We were at a. We did a theatre somewhere, which was we were on a lineup and it was filled. And I remember we were talking about doing just being able to do stuff in a theatre. And Peter said to me, and I feel the same thing. He goes, the thing is, I know that if I can get 500 people in that room, I can give them a good time. He goes, I don't know how to get the 500 people in that room. And I'm like, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, with a lot of comedians that I see as well, it's like there's the two parts to what makes like a profitable comedian. Yes. And part 100%. Of it is the craft. That's a really, really big part of it. But part of it is also, do they know how to sell themselves and make money and financial viability of it? And I think it's a shame that there are so many people that are so good at comedy that just don't have that marketing brain. Or on the flip side, that there are people with a brilliant marketing brain, but their craft hasn't quite caught up yet to that sort of thing. But I mean, I didn't think of my idea for merch. I just, saw other people selling merch, and it would do really well because psychologically after a comedy show, people are happy. So then if you're standing out there with a smile and you got merch, well, then they're way more inclined to buy it. So, the merch sells pretty well. And I was like, there's nothing about that I can't do, Like, get a card
I like
reader.
this attitude. I need a bit more of that attitude. Because I have that tendency to look and go, oh, wish I could do that.
Yeah.
And whereas I think sometimes you need more of that, why wouldn't I be able to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Melbourne's expensive.
Melbourne is expensive.
I'm going to have to find some way to, make back what I'm spending. So, yeah.
Well, the other thing is if you've almost broken even just on the production of your making it, then
that's a success. Yeah.
That's a massive success because you got to see that that's an investment in where someone can go find your stuff online, find more of you, more of your content, and then hopefully that will make them go, you know what, when Jenny's in my town or nearby, I'll buy a ticket and go along and then go buy a bucket hat as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, that's great. So when does that come out? Where can people find it? All that sort of good stuff.
So my special drops this Saturday. I don't know when this is getting released. But
this supposed to be Wednesday week, but I can change that if you want.
No, that's all good. No, that's all good. All right, my special is out now on YouTube.
Yeah.
My merch is available via the link in my bio on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you'll find me.
What is your handle on those?
So my Instagram is @_Jenny Tian. My TikTok and YouTube are @NomNomJenny. And because Jenny Tian was taken, I was so late to the game.
So then you've gone with Nom Nom.
No, I've gone with Nom Nom. I was just like, man, no one's gonna see this anyway. And it's just stayed. I think that's all the plugs I got.
Wow. So yeah, they go see your special and they can buy a bucket hat.
Yeah.
What's on the bucket hat? Talk to me design-wise.
Yeah. So the bucket hat is an image of me wearing a bucket hat.
That's meta.
Yeah, it's very meta. And then on the outside it says peanut butter Jenny time.
Peanut butter Jenny time.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Peanut butter Jenny time.
Yeah, and then I got people to vote on the design. So I just got my followers to vote on it. So it's like a yellow bucket hat, black rim on the outside.
Nice.
And then they chose the design actually, and then they chose that there should be a slogan. So yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, get a bucket hat, people.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you are going to be doing the festival runs next year?
All the festivals, including Edinburgh.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
Oh, I'm shitting myself. Like mentally, craft-wise, the venue, everything. But yeah.
How different do you reckon? So what's the first run you're doing?
Perth.
So by the start of Perth to the end of Edinburgh, how different do you reckon that show's going to be?
I think it's going to be very, very different. Especially because I have a thing where, I'm a pretty slow writer. Like I write pretty short jokes and I don't accumulate them that quickly. I'm like, I can't do an hour. So this is a show where it's way more experimental, where I have some stand-up bits, but it's like a big, long story and I'm keen to play with like tech and lighting cues and just discover things along the way. So I think that from that first iteration to what it'll end up being in Edinburgh, I think it'll be quite different. Yeah.
That's cool. That is one of the things when you're getting ground down to think about how much that's evolved.
Yeah,
how much
true.
Different. Because like people come back from those, especially Edinburgh, that they'll come back sometimes a bit, not jaded, but a bit like exhausted.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went to Edinburgh this year just to watch, and the mental state of some people that I spoke to was, not great.
Yeah, but they all come back so sharp, and it's that little break that you want to mentally recharge. You don't lose the skills you learn and what you pick up in those sort of environments. So
true. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, this is exciting.
Yeah.
So with the TikTok and all that sort of stuff, are we ramping up over 100,000, or are you happy where it is?
I'm happy. I'm like, I mean, if I really wanted to, I could try go for 1 million, but I'm like, I don't care about that. And at the end of the day, it's like, what I care about is the live comedy world and stand up and getting really good at that. So, I mean, that's my goal. I've got an audience that comes to see that. Like, I'm not really interested in having to write and create sketches every day or multiple times in a day to try and get this, figure that's up in the air that really doesn't mean too much. I'm interested in being the best comedian, best live comedian I could possibly be. So just got to put more of my effort into that.
So that's the fun part.
And that's the fun part, yeah.
I feel exactly the same way. I had a comedian say to me years ago, who's quite high profile, say, I just only ever want to do enough TV and radio that people will buy tickets to my stand-up.
Yeah, and that's how I think about the TikTok stuff. Like, yes, I have fun, like writing them and coming up with goofy ideas and like acting it out and everything. But at the end of the day, that's a means to pull in a live audience. And I only ever started writing sketches because I didn't have that much material, so I didn't want to burn any of it. So I had to, look outside for what else I could do. So even now, like I'm still posting like sketches and stuff. It's all for stand-up at the end of the day, which is unfortunately way less popular than, a lot of other kind of mediums which you could visit.
Yeah, but then what audience are you building?
Exactly, yeah.
Nice. So before we go, I do need to, like, for any middle-aged, this isn't for me, just middle-aged dinosaur comedians out there 3 tips for their social media.
Your opening is everything. Your first like 5-ish seconds are everything. You should have something that captures the audience's attention. Post consistently. Like, I'm going to use Matt Rife as an example because, he really does know what he's doing online. He was posting a lot and not getting a lot of views for a while. And then there was one clip that he posted that just went gangbusters. And then after that, people went back to watch everything else that he had done. So, if you're not getting those views initially, don't get disheartened by that. Just keep going and the algorithm will eventually pick up on your work and what you're doing. And the third one I would say is, oh man, there's so much that I could say.
You can make it 5.
You're like, please.
I just didn't want to make it. It was more of an arbitrary thing rather than.
Yeah, but now I'm like, no, seriously, this is. To just keep in mind that it's an entertainment platform and not a social media platform. So whatever content that you're putting out there, what is that key bit of entertainment people are getting? Whether it's that they're learning something or that, if you want to post a thirst trap, then that's your entertainment category. Or if it's comedy, then just the fucking most dense joke that you got that you can put in there. Like, no, so the other day I was walking down the shops and then what did you think? And da-da-da-da. And it takes a really long time for you to get to the joke. Just post that joke. Don't worry about any of the other stuff that's great for live comedy. But when people are watching video-wise, they're not in the room, so they haven't gotten a lot of the previous context. And that would be another tip as well for comedians, if you're posting stand-up clips or even sketches, is, if something hasn't gone well, analyze why it hasn't. And a lot of the time what I see is that there's not enough context in the video. So if it's like a crowd work clip, for example, and they've just said something really funny or whatever, and they've got a really funny riff, oftentimes the setup wouldn't be in it. So it's like, what can you do to make sure that the online audience is also included on that joke that you just made? Is it text up at the top? Is it that you need to start the clip a little bit earlier? Like, analysing why you're getting the results you're getting as well is important.
Oh, it all sounds like a lot of work. Mate, that's thank you very much for coming and doing this. So yes, go watch Jenny's special on YouTube. Follow her obviously on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. And when you get the chance, go see her live because I will tell you it's very, very good. Yay. Mate, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.